Alright guys, and welcome to the 10th episode of Below the Bar.
In this episode, expect to find out what it takes to become a Gurkha, how Nims became their first SBS operative,
And why you shouldn't strap a weight to the end of your cock.
Let's get into it.
Before this episode starts, I would like to make a quick announcement. I'll be hosting a military preparation seminar day on the 22nd of July at Forders Gym in Birmingham. We have sourced industry-leading experts to cover a range of topics, including performance nutrition, mindset, self-defense, and much more. Tickets are limited, so to secure yours, click the top link in the description. Back to the show.
Right, we're back in. Free Schofield. Chat shit, get bummed.
Very topical from Eddie there. Starting as we mean to go on. Well, introduce the topic for the week.
Yeah, so this is the Gurkha episode. We promised you a Gurkha episode, so we're going to deliver.
We are.
High calibre content, as always.
Yeah, it's the Gurkhas are a regiment that are well, they're nails, as we'll get into. But I don't think they're known about by people too much, are they?
No,
Certainly not like the ins and outs.
So this is weird, right? So I think the Gurkhas used to be more renowned than they were. Because I grew up listening to tales of the Gurkhas from my grandparents.
Right, okay.
Not that my grandfather's ever served with any Gurkhas, but like, I just think it was a generational thing.
Maybe, yeah. Well, they're getting, you know, as we're getting to, they're getting cut down, aren't they? So that's probably why. And there's less actual warfare going on. But we'll go through Helmet of the Week first, because it's a fucking corker today.
Yeah, so park your Gurkha urges for a second. We're going to get into Helmet of the Week. So do you
get your mind firmly in the gutter.
Yeah, do you want me to introduce him?
Yeah.
So this week's Helmet of the Week is a man called Sterling Cooper, who labels himself, no less, as social media's top sex coach.
Right.
So make of that what you will.
That's a red flag.
That is a red flag. Right, so he's a former adult star who's now turned his attention adult star to helping men regain their sex drive effectively.
Yeah, I mean, we came across this person on TikTok of an evening. I don't know what my algorithm's throwing up, but it boils down to he helps blokes increase the length of their knob.
Yeah. He's a charlatan. I don't want to give too many spoilers away, but he's a charlatan, right?
Yeah, in every podcast he's been asked about this, he's just deflected to the fact that it's behind a paywall, so you can't let on too much. It's probably just like cayenne pepper and stretching.
So I was doing some research earlier.
Of course, yeah. You sure this wasn't a pop-up ad?
And this, genuinely, is how he introduces himself on his website. Right, okay, you ready for this?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Have you ever watched porn and wished that could be you? Well, I was that guy. If you've ever watched Pornhub, you've probably seen me nailing some beautiful, big titty blonde. I have confidence, a big dick, and swagger. So I think we can say this guy's very, very humble.
Yeah, I apologise, by the way, if you're driving to work on a Monday morning.
Yeah, so there's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I don't know what to say about that. Imagine that being your About Me page on your website.
Yeah.
It's pretty forthcoming.
And I know you can't see this because this is an audio format, but he's capitalised confidence, big dick, and swagger.
Of course, yes. Well, if you're going to capitalise anything, you can capitalise big dick, can't you?
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to search him up on TikTok, you can make your own conclusions about his exploits in business.
So from what I could gather from the very little amount of time that I've spent on his absolutely gopping website, his main source of income at the moment is the How I Grew My Penis and Other Porn Industry Secrets ebook.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, that's priced at $99.
Yeah. So that could be yours for $97, which, in my opinion, is a bargain when we now go through what it includes.
Yeah,
right, okay. So included in this ebook are a simple wearable device that effortlessly adds inches to your penis.
Right. So a weight.
Yeah. A precise skin oil to massively accelerate cock growth.
So
you're also lubing up your cock.
Right. So you end up with massive skin and a tiny phallus.
5 techniques used by porn stars to stop them coming too early.
Right, that's nothing to do with penis growth.
No,
okay.
Right, okay.
We'll move on.
Yeah. A simple trick to overcome porn addiction.
Right.
Turn it off.
Yeah, and as someone who's a porn star playing straight into his thing.
A simple biohack that can turn anyone into a multi-orgasmic man.
Right. So only 2 of those things constituted actual knob growth.
I think we should focus on this wearable device that he's proclaimed. Because
that is just a dumbbell.
Yeah, what you've done there is you've attached a dumbbell to your cock.
Yeah. It's a bit like the Johnny English in the second Johnny English when he runs around with the fucking the weight underneath his cock, getting swung by it to help him when he gets kicked in the balls.
But like this, I mean, aside from the fact that it's completely absurd,
Ridiculous.
Who's buying this?
I can't imagine he's got many sales. To be honest.
How insecure do you have to be?
This is the problem I have with it though, because he's preying on insecure blokes.
Yeah, he's the Andrew Tate of the small cock world.
Yeah, just. What, do you reckon he has like a branch off into the micro penis world?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
but
just requires a lighter weight, progressive overload.
But this guy actually has quite a large following on social media.
It's because he just spouts bullshit, like same as Tate, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anyone who it's his delivery a little bit as well. He's quite brass and he's obviously a little bit misogynistic in the way he talks to women, and for whatever reason that gains traction.
Don't you mean beautiful big titted blonde?
Yeah, well there you go. Well there you go. But that gains traction, and he tends to only do, from what I've seen, podcasts that include women either in the guest format or in the interviewer, and that plays straight into the fact that he can talk as a misogynist to a woman, and therefore that gets clipped and then populated throughout social media, and that gets views, and therefore he's got however many followers he's got. How many followers has he got? Do you know?
Sterling Cooper.
Yeah.
No.
I
just remember it being quite significant.
Yeah, more than 0, which is the problem.
Yeah, that herein lies the issue. I think we can safely elevate this guy to hat status.
Yeah, as soon as we saw him, he was hat status.
yeah, there was the jury's out on that one.
Yeah. And then we went on his website, and it quickly confirmed that.
Yeah.
What was his other product?
Oh, it was how to overcome like performance anxiety.
Yeah. I don't know what that was. Just a little pre-workout.
What was
shake.
the other? Oh, how to seal the deal. That was the other one.
That was the other one. Yeah, he's like a dating coach.
He was basically
diversified.
So I was going to go through that one, but it did skirt on the side of rapey.
Yeah.
So I think it was a bit weird.
How to close the deal.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a red flag, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, no means no. So he's falling foul of that, isn't he? You know the big drive for what's the dating coach thing that's pickup artistry.
Yeah,
that's what it is, but it's online pickup. So you know how PT's become online now.
Yeah,
pickup artistry's now become online.
So
you get online pickup artists.
So you got this bloke on Skype, or you gone to like a date or something. Like,
this is on Black Mirror.
Is he on your ear? Is he in your earpiece?
Have you seen the Black Mirror episode where this literally happens? So this bloke is like this guy. He gets people paying him for to be in their ear. There's some like device they can't see. He's in the ear, and they've got a camera going on. And he goes to this party, and he says, right, approach that female, do this or whatever. And he's got, so the bloke behind the scenes has got a Zoom call with all these other members who are learning from the live performance of this one member. It's absolutely mental, but this is exactly what it is, isn't it? It's just in a more diluted format.
This bloke's just a parody, effectively.
Yeah, literally.
He's just a hat.
He could be used as a Black Mirror episode.
Yeah, so there you go. That's the second confirmed hat.
Yeah.
On Below the Bar.
Congratulations, Sterling.
Yeah, you've done yourself. That's probably the fucking best accolade he'll ever get, let's be honest.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably got a 12-inch knob, so I bet he rates that a bit higher.
Right, sorry to lower the tone of the podcast.
Into the Gurkhas.
Let's get back into the Gurkhas. Right, so some basic Gurkha admin. Just
always start with basic admin, as you know.
You know I love my admin. Right, so Gurkhas are soldiers from Nepal.
Yes.
Who are recruited into the British Army and have fought with the British since 1815.
Yeah, they've been around a while.
Yeah, this goes back a long time. Before we go into any of the Nazi history as to how the Gurkhas originated, you obviously were a Marine.
I was, in a past life.
In a past life. What exposure did you have to Gurkhas? Have you got any dits?
I actually didn't have any direct exposure to the Gurkhas. They tend to be quite insular in terms of like they work with each other. Because they're part of the British Army.
Man on man.
Yeah, man on man. Because they are part of the Army as well. Obviously, the Marines are part of the Navy, so there's that extra disconnect. So I didn't work with them directly, but when I was at Leckensfield, when you're doing your driver training, I was sat with my instructor for the truck license, and obviously they're giving you generally advice and tutelage, but they're also giving you directions. So go around this roundabout to the left, turn right here, whatever. And one of the common things that people just know, and go straight over that roundabout just means just go straight over, take the second exit. Yeah. Obviously, a Gurkha's never seen a fucking roundabout in their life. So the only exposure they've had to cars is when they've been driven from wherever they've landed in the airport to the barracks, and stayed in the barracks, and then driven from there to Leckensfield. They've never driven themselves, never got in touch with all the lingo. So anyway, this instructor goes to this Gurkha driver. Yeah, mate, straight over that roundabout in a fucking massive truck, and he goes straight over the roundabout without any hesitation. Just puts his foot forward, straight through in middle of Hull somewhere, just straight through the roundabout.
Was it a fucking mini roundabout? Or
No, it was a big one, but it was just grass.
So he's jumped to HGV.
Yeah, pretty much
over a roundabout.
I don't know how much air he got. But yeah,
that's fucking
mad. But much to the sort of the tune of how obedient they are, but they don't question anything.
Yeah,
because that is obviously ridiculous. I mean, no one's gonna. You would question that in your mind, wouldn't you, if you got told to just go straight over something when everyone else is going round? But because they've been told to do something by someone in a position of authority,
they've taken it literally. Yeah,
because that's exactly what they do.
They're renowned for their fierce loyalty, and this exemplifies that.
Yeah,
I mean, there's obviously a language thing at play as well, because straight over at the roundabout is a turn of phrase, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
So if you're not that attuned to the English language, you take it literally,
and they're not that attuned to
the English language. Exactly.
Basically, what they know is rifle and right turn.
Yeah, yeah. So as I said, Gurkhas are renowned for their loyalty, professionalism and bravery, and we'll get into that later. But
hence
first,
the many battle honours they've got.
First, some noisy history for you all.
As always.
Do you know how the Gurkhas came to fight for the British?
I know that a long, long time ago, when we were colonising India, or colonising Nepal or whatever.
He's dropped the C-bomb, that's what we wanted.
Yeah. So I know that we were essentially... The Brits were like, right, that's a tiny little area in fuck it, we'll smash that.
Like the Indian subcontinent.
Easy, mate, no chance. We'll just roll over it, no problem. They didn't account for these absolutely nails bastards who were going to stand up and fight, and they did stand up and fight, and they overturned. I think they overturned the Brits, did they? Or they at least stood toe to toe.
Well, in the end, it ended in a peace agreement.
Yeah, exactly.
We deployed some good old fashioned British diplomacy.
Yeah, exactly.
But effectively, they turned us over.
Yeah, they fucked us up, and then the commander was like, "Fucking hell, who are these geezers? We need these in our army." That's basically what happened, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a good story of if you can't beat them, join them.
Yeah, so true.
And that is effectively what the British Empire was.
Yeah.
If you couldn't conquer them, you'd employ them to then fight the other local populations.
Yeah, it's so true. It's fantastic, really, when you think about it.
Yeah, so Britain tried to invade Nepal in 1815. Gurkhas basically told them where to go. We deployed some classic British diplomacy, as I said, and then he signed a peace treaty, and then they started fighting, not for the British Crown, they started fighting for the East India Company.
Right, okay.
So, again, some more history admin.
Yeah.
The East India Company was a trade stock company that existed at the time of empire that basically did the Crown's colonising on its behalf for it.
Right, okay. So they were inadvertently fighting for the Crown.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
So it's like plausible deniability. Do you know what I mean? It's like that fucking... What's that Russian... Those shithouses that are fighting in Russia at the moment. The Wagner Group.
Oh,
it's like that.
Yeah.
It's like a private army. So I think at its height... The army of the East India Company was actually bigger than, like, the Crown, the British Crown army. Yeah,
but then eventually they switched over, right? And they now fight for the Crown.
Yeah, so I get bogged down in history, but there was a revolt in India, and then the East India Company couldn't hack it effectively, so the British Crown actually had to send in proper troops, and that's when the Gurkhas actually became part of the British Army. Yeah,
it's quite a high esteem to be a Gurkha within Nepal. So they're from Nepal, like Eddie said, and then they're to be a man in Nepal basically siphons you off to a life of poverty and work, essentially, isn't it? Because you're just going to be working on the fields or working on the farms or whatever it is. And so if you can elevate yourself to be a Gurkha, what that means is you're going to be flown over to England, first of all. You're going to get English pay, which you can send home. you're going to get clothing and food for free, which is insane for a Gurkha or for a Nepalese man. And the work you do will be relatively interesting. It's not going to be just hacking at fields and stuff like that. So it's pretty sought after to be a Gurkha within Nepal as a man.
Yeah, because like we were saying last week, obviously being a Sherpa for like an Everest expedition is lucrative.
Yeah.
But equally so is being a Gurkha in the British Army.
Yeah,
Now,
comparatively.
There are still Gurkha regiments in the Indian Army, which we need to cover later.
Okay.
But
Right,
we'll get to that. But yeah.
Okay.
It gets a bit complicated.
Okay.
But yeah, basically, if you're growing up in Nepal
Yeah.
and you're a bloke, you've probably got your eyes on either being a Sherpa or a Gurkha.
Yeah, and sometimes Sherpas become Gurkhas, but
Or
not,
vice versa.
yeah, but not. It's not common, I don't think.
No.
From what I read, anyway.
I'm not an expert on Nepal, but I imagine that a lot of the economy is just like subsistence, agriculture and stuff, especially out in the remote villages.
It's not a built-up place.
No. It can't be because of its geography, can it? It's just it's hard to build large urban dwellings on a mountain range.
Yeah. So to give you an idea and to contextualise a little bit around the attrition rate for Nepalese men going through and trying to be Gurkhas, it's a ridiculous training program, and it's really hard to obviously make it out the other end. But this might be outdated because the documentary I watched was pretty old. But to give you an idea, 40,000 men tried to essentially apply to be a Gurkha, and there was 700 spots. So
yeah, it's
absurd.
It's slightly less now, I think.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, in 2023 it was 20,000 applicants for 204 vacancies. But it's just scaled down basically because the army's got smaller.
Similar ratio, yeah. That is just absurd, isn't it? The amount of people who are going to be failing there is just mental. It's pretty similar. What was the Marine statistic? Was it 26,400?
Yeah, something like that. It's the same.
Same idea, yeah. So you can imagine how, and these are people who are fit anyway, because the life they lead up until being 16, 17, 18, whenever they can apply, is one of physical labour at altitude.
Yeah.
So they're no slouches.
Well, they don't have the sedentary Western lifestyle that we grew up with, do
No, 'cause they haven't got the luxury of it.
Yeah.
So
they're effectively in prep from birth.
Exactly, yeah. So
they don't need your programs.
They don't. The sort of baseline of their physical prep, the physical ability is a lot higher than ours would be.
So I'm a bit confused around the actual application stage, but I think they have to do some phys before they actually get in.
Oh, before they get flown over?
Yeah.
There's like a mad selection process.
A Doku basket race or something?
Yes. So it's like a basket on their head.
Yeah. It's like they have to cover 5.8 kilometres uphill in 46 minutes with a 15 kilo like woven basket on their head, effectively.
Is that still the case?
Yeah, they still have to do that.
Mad, that fucking hell. That's crazy, and they haven't modernised it at all. I love that. They're just like, yeah, this worked back in the day. We're gonna just fucking
it worked 200 years ago.
Keep
So that's
it.
very on brand for the British military. That is.
Yeah, exactly. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Yeah, I mean a wooden basket on your head.
How far is that? Just shy of like 3 miles, 3.5 miles.
Just shy of 4, innit? Just
Fucking
3.5. Yeah.
Uphill in 3/4 of an hour with a fuck off basket on your head.
That is rapid, by the way. But they live on the side of a mountain. They're not going to be.
Yeah, true.
It's not going to be new to them.
Apparently, the average Gurkha soldier is 5'3".
Yeah. So did you know this as well?
Like pocket rockets on.
So I'll give you this little statistic. This is quite a nugget. This. So when they because they're pretty malnourished, but by all standards, when they get to England, when they go through training, because they get fed loads and trained.
Yeah.
Right. They put the average Gurkha packs on a stone of weight, muscle. And grows 1.5 inches.
That's
it's
class.
Fucking mad, because they've got the first time in their life they've got
a calorie
actual
surplus.
nutrition.
Yeah, a calorie surplus.
And they're training probably less actually than they would be. So yeah, they pack on a stone in weight and basically just make themselves beast.
That's mad.
It's mad, isn't it?
You do see some quite fat-faced Gurkhas.
Yeah, they're probably just scranny.
I think it's probably just because they're fucking gorging themselves, aren't they?
100%. You would be. If you've never seen an abundance of food before, and you come over and it's all free.
This is the other aspect of like Gurkha training that blew my mind as well. They're doing this in a foreign language.
Yeah, insane.
So they get
isn't it?
tested on like English language, mathematics, and stuff, as well as like getting thrashed and all the soldiering aspect of training as well.
Well, I think this is why they probably only take the top 200 of 20,000.
Yeah.
You know, to be in that top 200, you probably have to be pretty switched on, not just really really fit, but pretty good at taking on instruction and decent with the English language potentially.
I guess that's why there might be an overlap with then becoming a Sherpa afterwards, because you've already got the English language.
Maybe, yeah.
So you can communicate with Western tourists, basically.
Yeah. It's a bit like, well, it's a little bit like when ex-British military personnel become mountaineers or become.
Oh yeah, you've obviously
CV
got the skill set as well.
Yeah,
that is
exactly.
required. I was just thinking about the actual language barrier.
Yeah, definitely.
As well.
Well, there'd be really no cause to learn it as a Nepalese man, really, apart from being a Sherpa
No.
or a Gurkha.
Well, we might as well talk about him now, because it segues quite nicely.
Yeah.
Is that someone that obviously was a Gurkha and
Yes.
then became a mountaineer is our friend Nims,
Exactly.
who we discussed last week
On our Everest episode.
in some depth. If you haven't already listened to it, go back and watch that.
Yeah.
But we'll cover him a bit more now, in case no one's heard of him. So, I did some digging on him today, and his father and 3 older brothers were also Gurkhas.
Right.
So it runs in the family.
That's mad. Considering what we just said with the numbers, you know,
Yeah.
and the rate of attrition, to have 3 members of your family before you, that's pretty impressive, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's like, I guess you get like military families in the UK. You get military families everywhere, but it's even more heightened, given that they were Gurkhas, like you said, because of the odds. The odds
are stacked against
against
them,
it. Basically, all the males in the family.
Yeah, true. It's probably, to be fair, I think there's a big stigma in the culture if, say, like your dad's been a Gurkha and then you try and don't do it.
It's quite traditional, isn't it?
It's a big stigma. It's traditional, like I say, to follow in the footsteps of your dad and your brother, probably.
And they're the kind of cultures. Not that I'm an expert again in Nepalese culture, but I imagine that people do get shunned.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
There's a harsh shunning culture.
Yeah.
Again, no research in that.
Yeah.
I'm just assuming that.
Having just spent 10 years in Nepal.
Yeah. Having recently returned from my Everest expedition.
With SA.
Yeah, so so he joined the Brigade of Gurkhas in 2003, and then joined the SBS in 2009.
Nice, okay.
So anyone that doesn't know what the SBS is,
Yeah, Special Boat Service.
Special Boat Service, UK Special Forces, and apparently became the first Gurkha to pass SBS selection.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Which again just shows how fucking nails the bloke is.
Yeah, the amount of Gurkhas that have probably tried to do that as well, and to be the first is pretty impressive again. But so the amount of the level at which you have to be in terms of soldiering skills to pass SBS selection is absurd. So you're right, to have been born without the language, to then, you know, got to grips with the language, trained yourself physically. Physical stuff wouldn't have been too much of an issue, but to then, you know, have grown up with none of the. You've never seen a weapon before, probably never seen a road before. You have to do driver training to be in SF. So all these things that he's picked up really late in life, and then become an expert in them pretty much within a small period of time. It just speaks to how well he can pick things up, and that's probably where it bleeds into his mountaineering career as well.
I mean, this is far beyond my skill set, right? But I'd love to do the number crunching on what are the odds of him actually getting to where he got to.
Yeah, from
Do you know what I
where
mean?
he was born.
Yeah, because like the odds of him being a Gurkha are slim.
Yeah.
The odds of him going UK Special Forces are even slimmer.
Yeah.
The odds of him climbing Everest
Or even
the odds of him doing all 14
peaks in
8,000 metre peaks in under 7 months are like that is
That
you're
is
talking
true.
like 0.000 of a percentage there.
Yeah, exactly. And
That's
because,
mental.
like I say, even if you're in the British Army from living in Britain your entire life, having that language, having whatever, the chances of you making it through SF selection then are really slim.
Yeah.
So, like, for example, most of the time anyway, about 220 people will go on selection at any one time, and about 5 to 7 will pass at the end.
Yeah, it's about those odds, isn't
Yeah.
it?
So going back to where we went, so 20,000 to 200, and then you've gone for your next selection process, 200 to 5.
Yeah.
And then how many people probably attempt Everest and don't make it? I don't know the stats.
Not less than 1% of the Well, if less than 1% of the population finish a marathon in their life, even less people are climbing Everest, aren't they?
100%. Just with the financial, purely just the financial reason. But yeah, so insane. He's transcended a lot of the glass ceilings that were placed upon him. He's like, fuck that.
And the other thing is, I forgot to mention this. He passed up the invitation of joining the SAS to crack on with his own mountaineering shit.
It's crazy that he got invited to join the SAS. He must have been some boy. Yeah, he must have been mental. A fucking good soldier for that.
Well, unfortunately, the Ministry of Defence prohibits him from discussing what he did.
Yeah.
On operations in the Special Forces.
He'd have been a fucking...
I can't wait for those files to get released. Yeah, that's mental. Oh yeah, and then obviously, if you didn't listen to last week, he left the Special Forces and just did basically like rewrote the mountaineering book, didn't he? Effectively.
Yeah, pretty much. He's got the biggest brand on Everest, as we said last week. He, as you just alluded to, but a bit more detail, he climbed every single peak under over 8,000 metres that exists in under 7 months.
Yes, he broke the record.
Which is the record.
Which previously stood at like a year, didn't it, or something?
I think it was longer, but yeah. So, he's no slouch. He's what we can say about Nims, isn't he?
Yeah, he did. Well, he also, as if that wasn't enough, he would just blow some more smoke up his arse. First winter ascent of K2.
Oh, yeah.
The year after he did the 8,000 metre
challenge,
14-7 challenge. And then in May 2022, he set a new speed record for ascending Kanchenjunga, the mountain that I couldn't...
He's obsessed, this bloke.
Yeah. Oh, no, sorry, Kanchenjunga, Everest and Lhotse consecutively without oxygen. 8 days, 23 hours, 10 minutes. So he did all three.
In 8 days?
Just over a week. But
what?
An ascent. As in, like, so he's descending camp.
Okay.
So I don't know how they timed it, but that's still mental. Because it normally takes people...
Well, people normally have to go up into camp, whatever, and back down a bit, and then
acclimatise,
and back down, up, because otherwise it fucks with them. He would have just gone, let's go.
Yeah, this bloke's just like a rat up a drain pipe. He's just like fucking up and down, up and down.
Mountain goat.
He's a winter warfare specialist in the SBS, by the way.
Doesn't it?
That was his specialisation.
I can't believe that's a specialisation. That must be the most miserable specialisation.
He fucking love it though, mate.
Yeah, he's fucking built for that.
With his little camp stove.
Yeah.
And all of his fucking techie mountain gear.
That's what you do in Norway, is the winter warfare course. So I bet almost all of their time is spent in Norway. So the mountain leaders in the Marines are the Norway specialists, and they spend up to probably 8 months a year in Norway. And so when he probably wasn't killing people in Afghanistan, he was probably in Norway,
which you can assume he has done.
Yeah. Well,
lots of people.
Let's assume so. But yeah, so he would have spent a lot of time in unforgiving environments in his military career as well.
Yeah. So
he just loves it.
He's a nails bloke. He just looks if you ever watch him being interviewed, he just looks completely unfazed by everything.
Of course he is. Bro, the amount that bloke sees.
Yeah, true. He sees some shit, hasn't he?
Anything could happen to him on a daily.
The fact that he hasn't had a severe mental breakdown already is a testament to his character.
I feel like you could call Everest with no option a mental breakdown, couldn't you? Depending on how you look at it.
Yeah, it's actually a cry for help.
Yeah. It's a midlife crisis.
He's going to keep ascending and descending these mountains until mind intervene or something.
Yeah. They'll probably sponsor one.
Yeah. Right. Gurkha battle honours. Let's go. Right. So, first 100 years or so of the Gurkhas' affiliation with the British Army, it's fair to say that they just fought a lot of colonial wars for the British.
Right.
Against people.
It's like a mercenary arm, weren't they?
Against neighbours, effectively. Yeah.
Great.
So a lot of colonial wars, killed a lot of Indian people and Sikhs. They get bogged down in that. That's a bit dull.
Yeah.
So over 90,000 Gurkhas fought for the British Crown during World War One. 20,000 either killed, wounded, or missing. So that's
so dead.
Yeah, I hate it. I hate that, by the way. Obviously, you've got to, it's a formality, so you've got to say if their bodies aren't accountable for. But unless they've just decided to go off grid after the war, it's safe to assume
for the last 20 years.
Yeah, he just fucking didn't fancy going back to his wife and kids, so thought, fuck this. Got his eye on a Thai beach.
Yeah.
I know where I'm going.
Owns a little scuba shop.
Yeah. So, same again in World War II. 120,000 Gurkhas fought for the British Crown.
And again, 20,000 either killed, wounded, or missing.
That's mad, you know. That's so many.
What I can't get my head around with this, right, is the fact that a lot of British forces during the war were drawn from Empire. A lot of these people that fought for the British won't have even been to Britain.
No.
And you're effectively offering up your life for a head of state.
But it's for an idea, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
The idea of the British royal family, basically, is what you're offering up your life for.
That is mental.
It's mad, isn't it? It shows the power of like good storytelling, doesn't it?
Soft power.
Yeah.
And hard power.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Yeah. Especially where the British Empire is concerned.
Bit of both.
Bit of both.
The same in like Nazi Germany is the same, isn't it? You had an entire nation of people converted to a ridiculous
ideology,
fascist ideology, just because of some bloke being really, really good at.
Yeah, it's weird how humans buy into like collective narratives and stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the herd mentality, isn't it?
That is mad.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think so. A lot of the Gurkhas in World War II fought in Burma or in the Far East against the Japanese, which was fucking horrible. By the way, if you could choose not to fight in any theatre of World War II, it would be that.
Well, that's not be funny. But that's probably why they sent the Gurkhas, because they are fucking nails.
Because they are now. If anyone was going to beat the Japanese, it was probably the Gurkhas.
It was like I don't know if it's like an old wives' tale or whatever, or it's genuinely how they do things. But there's a thing where they have this. Obviously, they have the kukri, which I'm sure we'll get onto.
Yeah.
But they have like a war cry, so they would all basically line up and just fucking charge at these at wherever they were going to go. And as a battle tactic, not amazing that, but I mean that's probably why so many of them browned out.
So I was going to do a little segment on like Gurkha myths because there are so many of them.
Yeah.
But then it transpires that most of them are myths. There's no truth in any of them. So I thought we were kind of pissing in the wind with that one.
Fair. Yeah. I did see a video of like 100 Gurkhas with their kukris out just charging at this trench.
So but the thing is, right, they've been Gurkhas as a kind of collective across the Gurkha regiment. They've been awarded 26 VCs.
That's absurd.
That's
got to be more than any other.
It's not though, is it?
Is it not?
We covered the VCs, didn't we? I think the Royal Artillery Corps got the most.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Just because they racked up a load in World War One, effectively.
But they have got a fat lot.
That is
the majority of of infantryers that have got VCs. It's got to be them because
But like, this feeds into all of the myths and narratives around the Gurkhas, though, doesn't it? Because there are some absolutely mental true stories.
That's true. So you don't know how to differentiate between
exactly.
The two. Yeah, it's absurd. Some of the stories, you've got one of them, haven't you?
Yeah, we'll go into that one in a bit.
But isn't mental.
But there was another one from World War II that I was gonna touch on. I don't know what the guy's name is, but he was like manning a trench with like 3 other Gurkhas, and I think they got shot. And there was like 200 Japanese coming towards him.
Yeah.
And I think he fought them all off and saved his 2 fellow soldiers by jumping on a hand grenade. No, that was it. He was he was returning Japanese grenades back to them. And he did it successfully twice, and then the 3rd one blew his arm off.
Fucking hell.
And then he proceeded to still fight the Japanese off.
That's mental, isn't it? Imagine trying a 3rd time. Well, I've done it twice, so I can only go again here. Hat trick.
That's mental.
That is mad.
I haven't done that story justice, really, but you get the idea.
There was another little dit in... I think this was it against the Japanese again. They were trench on trench. I think there were only 30 metres between them or whatever. And they were scrapping. And the British trench was heavily wounded and running out of ammunition, pretty much. So they had to basically shit or get off the pot. And this bloke basically just got out of the trench. The sun was coming up behind him, they said, so that he would have been literally silhouetted.
Yeah.
Like, shadowed around.
Nice target.
Yeah,
like a duck hunt. At the arcade.
Yeah, like a target practice. And he sprinted across open field for like 30 metres, dropped into the trench and killed all these people, killed like 4 Japanese, and then obviously mitigated the threat from that trench. But yeah, there's loads of little stories like that where one Gurkha has just shown insane courage. I think, have you got their motto? You got that down?
No, have you got it?
And their motto is something like, it's better to die than be a coward.
Yeah, you're right.
But that's in English, it's in Nepalese, but
yeah,
it's better to die than be a coward. But
it's quite blunt, that, isn't it?
Quite blunt, but you can see it demonstrated in all of these little stories, can't you?
Yeah.
It's mad. Like, they must really buy into that kind of idea.
Yeah, and I think the Gurkhas were heavily involved in the Chindits as well during World War Two, which was like a weird kind of collective spec ops operation that was going on in Burma that was comprised of a lot of different forces, but predominantly Gurkhas, I think, and they were tasked with basically doing covert shit behind enemy lines.
Yeah.
In a jungle against the Japanese.
Right.
And again, there's loads of mental...
Not setting yourself up for success there. Right?
There's loads of mental Chindit stories as well, if you want to...
Chindit stits.
Yeah. Chindit stits. I'll be a good podcast, actually.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for the series 3 of the Brummy Brothers podcast.
Yeah.
Chindit stits.
Great name. Yeah, but they did, like we've said, as we've gone out in a broad brush way, but the Japanese would have been horrendous to fight in that environment, and we sent the Gurkhas because we were like, well, we need some help.
Yeah, again, I don't think people appreciate how fierce the Japanese were during World War II anymore. Because I think this was missed through generations. Because again, I grew up with stories from my grandparents who were told by their parents about how effectively vile Japanese were.
Well, all the nasty traps and stuff, like human traps, that come from the Japanese.
And obviously Japanese prisoner of war camps, notoriously
terrible,
horrible. The bridge on the River Kwai.
There was a lot of, I mean, their sort of go-to. I think this is them and the Vietnamese, but they would essentially have loads of spiky sticks and
full on booby traps.
Yeah, they're booby trapping, but they would cover them in feces. You wear that, they cover the top of them in feces.
So you get infected.
You just
loads of horrible shit. I mean, to be fair, it's war, but
it's true. All's fair in the war.
Yeah,
and also now that bloke in Australia has been absolutely fucking.
Oh yeah, what's that called? What's he called?
I might have to do a segment on him next week.
Was it like Soldier A or something?
No, that's the Marine. Ages ago.
Oh, okay.
Well, we'll do a segment on these two actually next week when we get a chance. We've done some research.
Yeah, we need to do a bit more research.
Because this one's quite topical. The Aussie bloke who's ex-SAS.
Yeah, the grey area in like what transgresses as a war crime and what doesn't.
We'll do one about that.
Yeah.
So stay tuned. We won't talk about it now because we haven't got the stats.
It's a hot debating topic, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Obviously, you've got to adhere to the Geneva Convention in war.
Yeah.
And what transgresses that, what doesn't. It's a grey area,
I feel
isn't
like it is difficult to be able to talk about it without having been there.
Completely with frauds, effectively.
No, but I mean, like, when you get these people in a courtroom completely removed from
the heat of battle,
the actual moment, it's completely different. But of course, there's morals to it and stuff. But
yeah, no, we'll have to cover that because I think that could be a very interesting conversation.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, World War II happened, and then effectively ever since then, the Gurkha force, like all of the British military, has been condensed down.
Yeah,
but
they took cuts, didn't they?
Yeah, but interestingly with the Gurkhas, so originally, right, the Gurkhas were actually situated within the British Indian Army. So obviously, when India gained independence in 1947, the Gurkha regiment split between the British Army and the Indian Army. Yeah. So they kept 6 Gurkha regiments, and we got 4.
That's not an even split.
Yeah,
it's not fair.
You're right. So then I'm sure we get them back. Yeah. So basically, there are still. I don't know how it works in the Indian Army now, but there are still Gurkha soldiers within the Indian Army.
Yeah. Well, we got 4 Gurkha regiments, but I think one of them got shut down not long ago, didn't it?
Yeah. So they used to be individual regiments, didn't they, with like the first Gurkha rifles or whatever.
Yeah,
and now they all.
Well, they only gained their rifle status at a late on period after a certain battle has happened, but they got given. What did they get given now? They got given something that wasn't a standard bearer, the standard things that they do. They got given their one of them after a battle by the PM at the time.
But for ages there were never any actual Nepalese Gurkha officers.
No.
It was always white British officers leading Nepalese soldiers. Yeah, which again, we've not covered ourselves in glory there.
No.
As a nation.
That's it. So this documentary we watched, they obviously are talking to Gurkhas, but they're also talking to the officers of the time.
Who
are all white,
yeah,
posh, upper class
public school
men.
boys.
Yeah.
Who were basically shipped out to the Far East by the British military.
I mean, I don't see what's inherently wrong with that. I mean, obviously, like we said at the start,
Well, that's how the system worked at the time, isn't it?
exactly,
But
and
it's just in hindsight, it doesn't look great.
it doesn't look great. But on in terms of like logistics, how would it have worked? You'd have had the Gurkhas initially wouldn't have been trained, and therefore they wouldn't have had anyone competent enough to be an officer. So they'd have to get an officer from somewhere else.
Well, it works a lot better now.
Yeah,
because you can
it's
get
been around for ages.
Because you still have white Gurkha officers, but you also have Nepalese Gurkha officers.
Yeah, it's just
so it works
both.
a lot better.
Yeah.
The issue probably arose at the time. Yes, initially you'd need white officers to train the Nepalese soldiers, but then there was that glass ceiling.
Yeah, of course.
There was no way for them to progress because.
No, I guess so, but I mean, again, like we were saying before, just to be a Gurkha in Nepal is a massive kind of uprising in terms of their class structure. So I don't think, I might be wrong, but I mean, I don't think that the Gurkhas themselves were probably complaining too much about that. It's probably from the outskirts looking in to say, oh, that's not fair because that you're white and middle class and you don't understand what's going on.
Well, they probably don't understand what class structure is, to be honest.
No, exactly. So they wouldn't really.
That's a very British thing, right? Do you want to hear about an absolutely nails Gurkha?
I do.
Yeah, this story's mental, by the way. So buckle up. The stand of Diprasad Pun.
Oh, okay.
Right, this is mental. Right, so I'll set the scene,
Yeah.
and then we can touch base again, and then I'll reel out what he did.
Okay.
So Sergeant Diprasad Pun was awarded the Conspicuous Gallantry Cross for his actions in Helmand Province, Afghanistan, the 17th of September 2010.
Okay.
Right. Serving in the 1st Battalion, Royal Gurkha Rifles, he was on sentry duty at a checkpoint guarding his unit's compound. So I think he's up a little tower overlooking like an entrance gate, and then there's the actual compounds further back.
Yes,
away from the road.
Posted out a little bit.
Yeah. Under the cover of darkness, the Taliban attempted to plant an IED at the compound gate, which is when Pun comes under attack from AK-47 fire and RPGs. Right, so he's on his own. Believing he was about to die, he attempted to just kill as many of the Taliban as possible. Right. During the course of a 17-minute engagement, he managed the following. Right. 17 minutes. Right.
I'm ready.
Okay. 250 GPMG rounds. 180 from his SA-80 rifle.
Fucking hell, that's your entire allowance, Jen.
17 grenades of varying type.
Every minute on the minute.
Yeah, yeah, literally. And a claymore.
Fucking hell.
Right, eventually, Pun's machine gun jammed. So to warn off the last Taliban fighters, he used the machine gun tripod and a sandbag as projectiles and threw them at the enemy.
Fucking hell.
Jen, right. The last Taliban bloke tried to scale the wall. He's ran out of ammo. He's fucking cunted him with a machine gun tripod. And the bloke's fallen off the ladder and fucked off.
That's like something out of a fucking movie.
Mate, someone needs to make a film about this.
Yeah, that is brilliant.
So he successfully... The MOD released a document that said officially he fought off 15 Taliban fighters. But local sources reckon it was more.
Well, yeah, it sounds like more if he's used that much fucking ammunition. Jeez, and this is just really inaccurate.
So he successfully prevented his position from being overrun, and he was.
Did he survive?
Yeah,
Fuck
still alive. And he saved the other 3 blokes that were fucking asleep in the compound.
They just keep getting their head down.
Imagine waking up for sentry and he's just fucking there. You've got no ammo left or anything. He's like, fucking, what time would you call this?
Need a replay, mate.
Yeah,
yeah, that's mad. That is. So 180.
So he's used all of his own ammunition.
Yeah.
He's gone. Well, he's fired.
I don't know where he got fucking 17 grenades from. Fair play.
He's used all of the GPMG rounds he could until the fucker jammed.
Yeah, it would have overheated.
He's probably melted the barrel.
Not long after that. It overheats after like 400 rounds. So if you're firing them in massive bursts, which I'm guessing he probably was, then it could have just been that.
I'm guessing the claymore was already set up. somewhere around the perimeter.
Yeah, probably.
Unless he's done a COD and just fucking launched it.
Scavenger Pro.
Yeah, literally. And the 17 grenades, I think, were made up of like phosphorus grenades, like frag grenades. So he's literally anything that he could find that he's like
any pyrotechnic. He could find.
Yeah, he's got flair.
Yeah,
it's like the away end AC Milan. It's like fuck, he's got flair. Like fuck off.
Well,
that's a mental story, isn't it?
That. And there's again, these are like plentiful, aren't they? With the Gurkhas, there's another one in Helmand where they're in a compound. There's like 4 of them, and 200 Taliban like descend on this compound, and eventually they just like they start to just realise, oh shit, well we're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah, they're not going to give up, so might as well fuck off.
I don't think they actually retreated. I think what happened was they gained respect for him because of how fucking nails he was, and just let him go.
That is this is what I mean. So his words in like the action report were, I thought I was going to die, so I just tried to kill as many of them as possible. Like that's the mentality.
That's the motto.
Yeah, it is
genuinely the motto in paraphrase.
And the thing is, so like every regiment has like a motto and shit, doesn't it? But like it's like tradition, isn't it?
It's Pamer Paterum is the call.
Yeah, exactly. But
by sea, by land.
But like the Gurkhas, actually buy into it.
They live and die.
It's verbatim, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it must be drummed into them from birth, and I think a lot of it's to do with their culture and their religion and that kind of thing. Where I think if within their culture, if they die for something that's like a decent cause like that, then they get a lot of respect. The family gets respect, all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But I think the opposite happens if they die, if they cowered off or whatever happens, you know, and that feeds back to Nepal. They get ostracised.
This goes back to my shunning culture.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm onto something here.
A heavy shunning culture.
Yeah, I'm like a fucking anthropologist. I am. Shunning culture. Yeah.
How was Nepal, mother?
Yeah, it was great. I can't talk about it too much. The MOD won't let me. Yeah. Well, that's mental, isn't it? And as I said, they were they've won 26 VCs.
Yeah, that's
so like they're accounting stories like this. It's not a one-off.
Yeah, so the Corps have won 10 VCs, I think.
Yeah, and if you think how nails, right, Royal Marines Commandos are.
Yeah,
and they're always
have they been around for as long? They were 1664. When were they? When were the Gurkhas?
1815.
Right, so 200 years sooner.
But you got to remember that they were fighting for the East India Company for about 100 of you. No, because it's not for the British Crown.
Right, so even less time.
Yeah, because that's effectively like a mercenary army.
Yeah, so the Marines have been around 1664.
Yeah.
So that's a long time to be earning 10 VCs.
That's mad, isn't it?
So, yeah, that's ridiculous. But it just, again, speaks to how nails are. And I think, again, it probably comes from, in my sort of, my 2 cents, is that the Nepalese male population are probably fairly nails individuals anyway because of where they live. Just living in that harsh environment is going to make you a certain type of physical specimen. And then if 20,000 of those people are going to go to a selection process and only, is it 1% of them are going to make it through, they are the top 1% of a nails physical bunch anyway. So they're probably the people who are first the top physical, but then probably switched on and brave. That's probably the 3 in it, and then they're going to go to war, and it just manifests as this.
They are the best of the best of the Nepalese male population.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So it sort of makes sense.
Yeah, the Nepalese equivalent of the Corps. How many VCs were awarded on that San Nazaire raid documentary that we watched? Just for comparison. Was it a few? Was it 2?
I think it might have been 2, yeah.
2 or 3, max. But if you think about how mental that was, and like the level of gallantry that was on display there, and only 3 VCs were awarded.
It's not easy to get a VC.
I know, it's mental,
You basically have to die.
Yeah.
In most cases...
that's the difference between like the military cross
and the Victoria Cross.
And I think you literally basically have to die or have literally cheated death.
Yeah, I think it is that, you know. There's some... There's a good documentary about Victoria Cross winners, actually. And and it goes into detail of obviously some of the stories, but actually the criteria set out.
Yeah, is it the Jeremy Clarkson one?
Yeah.
That is good. It's on YouTube, all of
It's
it.
another one. It's good. Another Jeremy Clarkson. We seem like Jeremy Clarkson sympathisers now.
He's not in our echo chamber,
Yeah.
but he used to make some alright documentaries.
Yeah, this is pre-racism. But yeah, I mean, it's a really good documentary, and I just think even just to get to grips with the criteria for a Victoria Cross, because it's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's mental. So I've got one more thing to cover, and then we can touch on anything that you want to finish.
We've got a reason to be cheerful, haven't we?
We've still got reason to be cheerful. We talk about the cookery as well. The infamous Gurkha blade. I want to touch on a Gordon Brown scandal.
Right.
Because I know a lot of people think I'm a bit of a libtard.
Bringing his politics back.
Bringing my politics in, but I'm always Tory hating, aren't I?
Yeah,
but I want to prove that I'm a centrist and now throw some shade on the Labour government of Gordon Brown. Right, are you aware of this?
No.
The Gurkha scandal?
No.
So we were about 10 when this happened. So it was like 2009.
He was still a nose then.
I remember it vaguely.
Right.
But having researched it now, he
mad.
didn't cover himself in glory.
Yeah.
Right, okay, so basically in 2009, Gordon Brown decided that retired Gurkhas shouldn't be allowed to permanently settle in the UK.
Okay. That's ridiculous.
So, New Labour previously introduced legislation which allowed Gurkhas who retired after 1997 to permanently settle in the UK. So there's some history here. So the Gurkhas actually used to be based in Hong Kong.
Right, okay.
Until 1997.
Yeah.
Which is when we gave Hong Kong back to China. So they said, right, now because the Gurkhas are based back in the UK, anyone that retires after 97 can settle in the UK.
Got you.
But people were pushing for all Gurkhas should just be allowed to settle in the UK because they've effectively signed up to give their life for Britain.
Makes loads of sense.
Yeah. Well, he lost the vote in Parliament, so he got mud on his face. Loads of Labour MPs defected. Yeah. He just went down like a shitstorm in the press.
So his idea, it was Gordon Brown?
Yes, no, so he just had a thing, he got in a tissy fit about it, basically. Right. And he's like, no, and then like, you know what it's like in politics, you know, once you've said it, you can't back down, because then you'd be seen to be weak.
Yeah.
So he made a rod for his own. He made a rod for his own back eventually.
That's crazy. It's a bit, well, it's kind of like what we talked about in the in the veterans episode where was it Liz Truss who just got rid of the veterans minister?
Chinned off Johnny Mercer.
Yeah.
And it went down like a lead balloon. But then,
exactly. And she lasted about 5 minutes.
But then you can't be seen to be buckling under your decisions, because then that's seen as weak leadership.
Yeah.
So you just got to back yourself, even though you know you've made the wrong decision.
Which she did again with the fucking mini budget.
And you just look like a hat, don't you?
Which she is. So
yeah.
There you go.
So the reason why this became such a scandal is because Joanna Lumley got behind the Gurkhas. You know Joanna Lumley, national treasure, because her dad fought as a Gurkha officer in the World War II. So obviously the press loved that.
Yeah.
And Labour were just pissing in the wind, effectively.
Well, I mean, I'm glad they didn't get that through. And in a world where that gets pushed through, that's a nightmare, isn't it? But
exactly. So you can't say that I'm always Tory bashing, because I've just done some bit of Labour bashing.
Yeah.
But
just to balance the books a little bit.
Wait till our housing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Or we both be bashing Tory.
Wait till our housing crisis episode, because there'll be plenty of Tory bashing there.
Yeah, lots of good episodes in the pipeline.
Yeah, that's one to look forward to. If you're like us, sat on the fence about buying a property in the sinking UK economy.
Eddie sounds like he's sat on the fence, doesn't
he? I'm very firmly.
You put
very firmly on one side.
Firmly on one side of the fence. Yeah, the cookery. Have you got? What have you got about the cookery?
Not a lot, other than I've got an anecdote from my granddad,
right.
And I know that they're 18 inches long.
Yeah, well, they if you don't know what it is, it's the Gurkha's knife essentially. So they have to carry it everywhere. As soon as a cookery is is drawn. It has to draw blood
before it can be resheathed or whatever.
Yeah, so they can't draw it in jest essentially unless they're willing to cut themselves or something.
So, quick Brummy Brothers life lesson there.
Yeah.
If you're ever in a heated debate with a Gurkha and he draws his cookery, I'd get out of there.
Run for the hills.
Yeah, get out now.
Probably don't run for the hills because they will chase you and catch up with you.
Yeah.
Because they're pretty good on hills, as we've established.
I don't know.
I don't know what you could do.
Maybe try and swim away. I don't know. Are they good at swimming? I don't know. Well, I know they're good at hills, so I wouldn't back that option.
Stay away from a decent gradient. But yeah, so every time it gets drawn, it has to be blooded before it can go back in, which is mad.
So the anecdote that I've got from my granddad,
Go on.
I take this with a pinch of salt, because I did when I was about 7. So this is how ludicrous it is. So when he was doing national service, apparently he was stationed somewhere with some Gurkhas.
Yeah.
And apparently one night, a Gurkha lost a bet with him. So he stole his cookery.
Right.
And he bigged this up for years, right? And he said, one day I'll give it you. You know, it was like...
Yeah.
He's still alive, he's not dead. Like, it's not that morbid.
Yeah.
But like, so he showed me this cookery one day. That is shit.
Why?
I don't know where he's got this from, right? But he's delusional.
Is it like really short or something?
Yeah. So it's about that big. It's like imagine right, you've gone to the Gurkha Museum.
Yeah.
And you've bought a toy cookery in the gift shop.
That's literally what he's done there.
That's what he's done, hasn't
He's
it?
actually great. I'll fucking tell
Yeah,
you.
and I'll spin my grandson a dit.
Yeah.
That I stole it from a Gurkha.
That's hilarious.
Bearing in
Grandad,
mind-
I thought they were 18 inches long.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't worry about that, mate.
Bearing in mind he did his national service in England as a vehicle mechanic. So I don't know what kind of exposure he's had to Gurkhas there, but
Yeah.
I think it's in his head.
Playing bets in the bar by the sounds of it.
Yeah, so that's the extent of my knowledge of the cookery.
Yeah, well, that was all I really knew about it. I know that they do still actively use it. So
it's part of their service
battle order.
uniform.
Yeah, so it's part of their uniform. Yeah, but it's part of their order when they go into battle as well. So the British Army will carry bayonets, which is just a dagger, right?
So how does that work? Do they not get issued with bayonets, or do they get both?
Probably not. No, they probably will get bayonets because the cookery won't go on the top on the end of the rifle.
No, it won't. Imagine that, you'd be shooting around corners, it's fucking bent in it.
Yeah, so I imagine you get both, so you fucking double down, akimbo.
That's not fair.
I know.
No wonder they've got so many VCs. They've got fucking more weapons. Giving them miniguns next.
More weaponry. Yeah, so the British Army gets, and everyone else gets a bayonet. You don't really use a bayonet though too much, I don't think. I mean, not that I went to Afghanistan or anything, but when we were on exercises and stuff, there weren't many instances where you would think, right, this would be great to use a bayonet, because I think it seems like so.
It's for close quarter combat, isn't it? And you seem to get less of that nowadays.
Yeah, it is, but it seems like I think if you were stacking up outside a building, you would probably put them on just in case anyway.
Just in case you need to give someone a bit of a jab.
Yeah, exactly. Just like you got to give them a little dead check.
Fuck off, yeah.
Well, that's what you would normally use it for, is a quote unquote dead check, where you are checking someone's dead. So I don't know how that works in terms of whether they would preferentially use a bayonet or whether they preferentially use their cookery. I don't know what would be first in terms of what they would go to.
I mean, if we had our fucking head screwed on, we would have actually got a Gurkha to come and do this episode for us.
That's true. I don't know any.
Neither do I.
Get Nims on.
But make of that what you... Yeah, I'm sure he's available.
Yeah.
I met him in Nepal anyway. So.
Yeah, he's just, the flight was delayed. We couldn't get him on. Yeah, well, that's it. I think I saw, like I say, all I know about it is the blood dit, but it's impressive they have to just carry around a fucking massive machete.
It's effectively a machete, isn't it? Anyway, so that's
it would have served them well in the fucking jungle.
Yeah, well, exactly, isn't it? It's jungle warfare.
But every time they use it, they have to cut someone. So right, who this week, lads?
Yeah. Right, so that is the Gurkhas comprehensively covered.
Yes, exactly.
If you are a Gurkha and we've offended you, then I'm sorry. Please come on and amend for all of the mistakes you made.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So before we finish, you want to
have-
talk us through reason to be cheerful.
And last week we were scraping the barrel with reason to be cheerful.
Yeah.
Because we had to shed light on Luton. And
Yeah, we-
realistically, no one should ever have to shed light on Luton.
Regrettably, we had to shed light on those. This is a bit of a weird one. It's not really a reason to be cheerful. I just wanted to bring it to light because it's important.
So
Essentially.
it's actually a horrible story, isn't it?
Yeah,
but
it's not a reason to be cheerful. But
no, it really is.
It needs bringing to light, essentially.
I think the only joy that can be taken from it really is that people are trying to raise money for a good cause, a very worthy cause.
Exactly. So we'll put the link for the donations in the description for the podcast. But essentially, where I was at ASG in the Royal Marines, one of the lads, him and his missus have had a baby, and it's been diagnosed with infantile leukodystrophy. So this is essentially progressive loss of physical and mental capacity. So for baby to have that is
fucking horrible.
horrible. So you know what dystrophy is essentially your muscle wasted.
It's just wasted.
And so that's what adults get, and infantile just means it's happened as a kid. So so what's happened? Obviously, the community of the Royal Marines being what it is, the lads have kind of got round and realised that to pay for the treatment that would need to be paid for, the lads have to go private,
which obviously
is
requires
a
lot of money. Yeah.
Extortionate. So how can we raise money? We'll do it in a true Royal Marines fashion. So essentially, where I was based in ASG is right by Lulworth Cove, if you know it, down south in Dorset. It's got a stretch of land there called the roller coaster. Well, I think the Marines coined that term. To be fair, I don't think it's actually
an undulating cliff, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just the seafront essentially,
Yeah.
but it's a big trail. I think it's 9 miles. There's different sketches as to how long it is depending on where you stop, but it's 9 miles, and they're essentially going to do 24 hours of the roller coaster. So they're going to do a relay race to see how many times and how much distance they can clock up on the roller coaster. And it just for a little bit of information, that 9 mile segment from point to point has 1,785 feet of elevation.
Mad.
Up and down. So it's no fucking
That's
no
gonna be
easy
absolutely
feat.
stinking.
So that's on the 27th of July. So before that point, if anyone's got any spare cash, then drop it definitely down there. It's a worthy cause, and
very worthy cause.
Yeah, they've raised some good money already. So go and add to that if possible. But again, not really a reason to be cheerful, but just something that needs bringing to light.
Highlighting, yeah. Bit of a somber note to finish on.
Yeah, trust.
But we'll be back next week.
Yes.
What is next week's episode?
We've got a few in the works, haven't we? But
it's actually a lottery because even we haven't decided.
Yeah, exactly. I'm leaning towards this Marine A thing, you know.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So I think
have to get some research.
2 episodes time, obviously because we're still waiting on the end of the season. Will be the end of season awards. So we've effectively got a freebie. But I'm liking what you're thinking.
Yeah.
A bit of debating should be on the table.
Yes. So it might be around the kind of Geneva Convention and war crimes, that kind of thing.
Yeah, the controversies of war.
Yes.
I like
got the title already.
Yeah, there we go.
Love that.
Click that.
Sound. Okay, cool. Well, thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next one. Again, the links in the description are obviously pertinent this week, so make sure you go and check them out.
Yeah. See you next week.